All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Grind. It's your guy, Sherrod. I am your host here today. And today we decided to do something a little different. You know, we're celebrating Father's Day this weekend. And so I decided on this particular podcast to have a podcast that was strictly focused on fathers. And, you know, with everything going on right now, you're hearing a lot of things that are going out. We decided to have the theme Black Fathers Matter. That's what we're going to talk. And I decided to get a group of guys that I'm very comfortable with, a very good group of guys, very godly group of guys, and just those role model type of guys that I have today. And we just decided we're just going to talk a little bit about fatherhood and just talk about things that we normally would talk about in conversation. So with that being said, I want to introduce you to this group that I have brought together to have this conversation. First off, I want to bring you to a guy who helped me find my wife, by the way, you know, all the way from the city of Detroit. He found himself through Battle Creek, all these different places throughout Michigan. But we've connected. He's been my guy for quite a while. I want to introduce you to my guy, Torian Butler. So Torian Butler, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, Sherrod, man. It's good to be here, having a good week, ending out this school year. So yeah, doing good, man.
That's good. That's good. I'm so glad you were able to join today on the show. So with that being said, let's go back to a guy who I think he spent most of his life in Detroit. He used to be a track star, he said, football player, mid-major. But he's the guy, you know, we call him the reverend, the counselor, the elder, and the pastor, all those good things. I want to introduce you to my guy, Jamel Jefferson. How you doing, man?
And I'm doing good, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me to the show. You know, it's always a pleasure and an honor when a group of men can get together. And actually, you were one of the elect ones to be chosen a part of that panel. So I'm honored. And I want to say thank you for inviting me. And I appreciate it.
Oh, most definitely, man. I couldn't do it without you, man. You have a lot of insight on a lot of good things. And so we're going to be pulling on that today. And with the guy who I can't forget, you know, he's been behind the scenes a lot of times. A lot of times these videos that we've been doing through the Behind the Grind, whether it's through this YouTube or whether it's just videos that we post, there's a guy that helps it look popping, right? And this is the guy who really is the guy that really makes things happen. He is my guy. Now, he spent a lot of time in the Detroit area, but from what I understand, he grew up in Saginaw. Saginaw is what we call it, but Saginaw. I want to introduce you to my guy, Reginald Day. How you doing, Reg?
I am doing good. What's going on? You got me on the show.
Finally got on the show. We joke about this because there's oftentimes we're doing shows and the videos that really come out looking really sweet, he's doing them. But I try to get him in and to jump in on the conversation. A lot of times he won't do it. But from this point on, we know that he can do the show. So thank you, man. Thank you for joining us today, man. I appreciate it.
Most definitely.
All right. With that being said, let's get to it. Let's talk a little bit about Jamel. You know, your profession. Let's tell a little bit about what you do and your interactions with fathers and just manhood, all that good stuff. If you can tell us a little bit about what's going on with you, man.
Well, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I had the unique ability of going to Ashland Theological Seminary, where I'm able to blend the spiritual and the clinical together in my training process. And I spent some time actually working in child welfare before I started my clinical rotation. So I've had the ability to work with families, to work with fathers. And one of my neat callings is actually to men. And a lot of my clients right now currently are men. You know, I have a vast variety. I have some Caucasian men and I have some Black men. But I always had a heart for Black men and being able to pass on my knowledge to them. One of the things my kind of catchphrase is that ignorance is passed down. Ignorance is generational.
Right.
So part of our goal is to make sure we're not passing down ignorance, but we have the ability to pass down knowledge. We have to make up the next generation to be able to do better than we have. So that's part of my job is now as a 43-year-old man, anybody that comes across my desk younger than me, the things that I'm asking now, I have the luxury to share with them early. So they don't have to wait to 40 to figure out stuff. They can ask the same questions at 20, 25, and then get a jump on it. So that's kind of what I do is that I spend time, walking with people on a journey of healing. And that's kind of, my whole counseling practice, Envision Change Counseling and Consulting. The goal is, can you see change? If you can see change, you can achieve it. And then you need somebody to come alongside with you on it. That's the purpose. I walk alongside of people on their journey of healing to help them become the best version of themselves.
Yeah. With that, Jamel, what got, I know you didn't start off in this profession. What caused the change? What caused you to switch over and specifically go into this realm?
That's interesting because my bachelor's degree is in financial planning, concentration, investments. I went to school because I said I was going to be an investment banker and make money.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I was working in the business arena. I was just started school, and then I just got mad. One Monday, I was so irate because of things were going on in that company. Yeah. And I said, Lord, I just want my gifts and talents to be utilized, and be where I'm supposed to be. That was Monday night in group in class. I got fired Tuesday.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And I couldn't work for 2 years till I finished my master's degree. Finished my master's degree on August the 28th. I had a job September 1st doing child welfare.
Wow.
So
praise God, as they say.
Yeah, it was all God ordained, because if it was up to me, I was doing other things.
Man, well, thank you for sharing that. And we might need to circle back to that too a little bit later. Torian, I know you've got a range. I know you've always been passionate about education, and I know you've worked with a lot of areas, and specifically with those in the younger age and younger males. Tell a little bit about your profession, what you've gotten into, and what you do today, and what you're trying to do.
Well, currently I'm a math teacher, school district in Detroit. 7th grade. What got me there was I spent some time. Yes, I've done a whole lot of things. But what really got me there was I spent 7 years working in juvenile detention centers.
Yeah.
And during that time, got to talk to a lot of different males, a lot of different African-American males, and sent some of them to prison, unfortunately, and really saw a lot of lives change. And so the last place I was at, I was a supervisor, and we were really trying to get groups in there. We were really trying to get programs for the young men, because we really saw an attack on a young man in the county that I worked for. And so that got shut down. Every time it come up, it gets shut down. I just got really fed up and tired of it. And it's like, Lord, I want to be a part of the change. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I don't want to have to house youth. I want to be able to teach them however I can. And so ended up leaving that place when God said it was time to leave. And for all of my talents, all of the things I've done over the years, for everything, the only thing I could get was a job as a paraprofessional with the current school district that I'm at.
Okay.
And over the course of 4 years, learned a lot about the district. But in the end, God put me where he told me to be 17 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That was in the classroom. And since I've been there, it's just been miraculous, because I'm, the only Black male teacher that many of these kids have ever seen in the inner city. So it's phenomenal.
Torian, I commend you, man, because, from the get-go, you've always been drawn. You're just an educated kind of guy, and you've been drawn to education. And, you've had, like you said, a few challenges along the way, but you never gave up on that. What was your driving force to continue to say, hey, I belong in education. I belong in educating the next generation? Like, what kept you going at that?
Being a product of my environment, but rejecting where I was born. Product of teenage parents. Mom was 16, dad was 15. Dad killed at 18. He's a drug dealer.
Right.
And then as, growing up, there was addiction that took place in my household, whether there was drug abuse, physical abuse, what have you. And at every step of the way saying, I see what's wrong and I know what not to do. And if I can, because I had a lot of little brothers in the house, and the oldest of 8.
Oh, wow.
And could be more, don't really know. But the oldest of 8 that I know of, and shielding and covering them inside the household, only as I became an adult, went deeper until it became just something to do with anyone that I saw who was at a disadvantage, and really just trying to help bridge the gap to show them that, no, you can excel. Look at me, look at everything that I was able to get through, and being able to, I've had first fruit with a lot of the things that our experience, a lot of the things that we're seeing with police and
Yeah.
everything, and being able to get, out of the hood for real.
Yeah.
And do it on my own back, with the grace of God, I'm still here.
Man, that's good, man. And you said a couple of things, and again, I want to get back to it. You've had experience both, on the side of the correctional side as well as the educational side, and so we want to talk about that a lot today on this program. But I want to get to Reggie here. Reggie, tell us a little bit about your involvement with fathers and so forth, and what you're doing right now.
So I am involved in quite a bit of things, to be honest with you. Recently got some things going on with my, I guess you could say, healthcare career. And, I think that has been instrumental in a lot of ways of me teaching my own son about how to, number one, have multiple streams of income, and not just rely on one source. But I'm not going to go into all of that. Having my own business as well in media. So that's videography and photography, and teaching my children, again, the importance of having something to call your own. And so, again, we could talk about that in a separate venue as well. But one of the other things that I'm recently getting involved with, my wife and I, my wife is a lactation consultant. She is involved heavily in maternal infant health. And one of the things that that I support her in the past, like, I guess you could say 6 or 7 years, is she runs a group called Meet Nurse Love, and it focuses on the family, and it centers around breastfeeding and just nurturing of children. In that group, we do what we call, we do have breakout sessions where I address the fathers, and we just kind of have dialogue, like, what's important to the family. And so that's one of the big things right now that I'm actually in talks with another couple and owner of a facility about developing a fatherhood group. So we'll see what comes about with that.
That's awesome. So this is perfect. I mean, it's the perfect conversation. We got a variety of guys here that are dedicated, whether it's in their profession or just in general. I mean, I heard a lot of talks here about just in our personal lives and what we're doing for our children, and all on this call are fathers, right? And so let's talk about that. We're all fathers. Some of us started off young. I want to get to Jamel. This is the father who we jokingly say he's a father of, how do you put it? You probably can best describe it, Jamel. You that type of father.
I've had kids in 3 different decades of my life. And that's was unique. I had a kid in my 20s, I have a kid in my 30s, and I have a newborn in my 40s.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you got to tell us about that.
I got a 4-month-old. Hey, I wasn't planning it. That was all God, because I thought I was done. At 40, I'm trying to be maybe papa or somebody, but now it's, I'm daddy. So now it's, a kid graduated from high school. It's like, hey, man, why your granddaddy here with you? No, that's my daddy.
Oh, man. It's a new day, bro. It's a new day. That's how they go now. It go that way. But tell us a little bit about your experiences, man.
Man, it's been
father
a roller coaster of experience. That, my oldest son, he's 19 now. And what I've learned over the last 19 years of how to parent and how to be present as a man has changed drastically from my 19-year-old son now to my 11-year-old daughter. She was the catalyst for changing me, because you know what? I'm
talking
a dude,
about them girls, man.
And I was this is how crazy it was. It was a word of prophecy that came and said I was having a girl. I got mad. I said, no, I ain't no punk. I ain't about to be out here and soft and no little girl out here. And
real talk, right? Real talk.
God purposely gave me that girl to tender me up.
Wow.
And that was the changing factor of what she did to me. Because she'll get around here and be like, Mommy, Daddy's being rough with me. Tell her I'm not a boy. I was like, see, that's what you're talking about here. But that's been the dynamic, is that, I can't say stuff because she'll, oh my goodness, the world has just ended when I say something. I'm like, well, what did I do wrong? And my wife would be like, you can't say that to her like that. It's not about what you said, it's how you said. So that forced me to try to course correct some stuff. And I was like, man, this is some bull. I can't say nothing. And then without people just, falling all on the middle flow, like I done just killed it. But that helped me grow as a man, because now understanding that there was always a tag that go with me, that Jamel was direct, straightforward, but his tack was bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, I couldn't get it, but I was like, man, what? I'm telling it how it is, but it's like, couldn't receive it. So now she helped me to learn how to connect and do things. So now she softened me up. Yeah. So now it's like, all right, part of this is, all right, so what do I do next? Part of me still believes to this day, and it's something I got to work on, that I failed my oldest son because he's not where I think he should be. And some of the things that's going on, and it feel like I failed as a father at some point. And I always said, Lord God, if you give me another son, I'll do it right. I want to correct it. I want to be able to make amends for what I didn't do for my oldest son. So now I have, he's my namesake. So he's my legacy. So it's something about him that now I have to take my 43 years of knowledge and pass it on to him. And especially my 19 years of parenting and do it the right way. So now me and my son are riding in the car, listening to Tupac and, Biggie and all the other rap groups. Me and him down.
So is that how it was?
That's how it was. We was riding in the back of my car, and we banging out like, yeah, me against the world. But now, me and JJ, we down here. Thank you, Jesus. Got to get back right. Stay close to the Lord. We down here with a whole nother circle of music. Hey, son,
whatever you do, don't expose them to them Detroit Lions, though. You know what I mean?
Whoa. See, stop. You know what? I'm gonna have to end the call right now. That's I'm calling your bishop. That's offensive.
No. Real talk, though. Real talk. So we'll come back to the Lions, though. But I just wanted to throw that out there. I know you're a huge Lions fan, and Torian as well. You're a huge Lion fan. So I wanted to just throw that quick shot in there. I'm always a fan, and I'm just waiting on them to win a Super Bowl. But whenever that happens, I'm with them.
I got a son with my name, so I can say in my lifetime, because my son may see that, his name. So it's in Jamel's lifetime. So I can't say about mine, but hopefully maybe
your legacy might see it.
Right. next level prophecy that the Lions will win the Super Bowl.
So Reggie, on that note, you have a daughter as well who is a lot like you. Well, she looks a lot like you. I don't know.
She looks a lot like me.
You can describe how it is, but you have the perfect blend of a boy and a girl, right?
Oh yeah.
So you have the best of both worlds in that aspect, right? And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about fatherhood and how it's been for you. How's it going?
I didn't have I would say, Jamel mentioned how having that girl softened him up. But my daughter is my oldest. Yeah. And so with her, I kind of just was like, I don't know, I'm jumping in here. And
how old were you when you had her?
So I was about 23. I think I was 23 when I had her. Okay. And so for me, it was give her everything I got, because I don't know if I'm having another kid. So she got to be tough and know how to take care of herself in case I'm not around. Wow. So that didn't fare too well with my wife, obviously.
So you were kind of preparing her kind of like the Tupac and Biggie in a different kind of way.
In a different kind of way. Like, this world ain't kind to, to black folks, especially black women. Right. And so for me, it was more so like, I need you to be able to really just know how to navigate and care for yourself in the midst of challenges that you don't know yet. But, my wife did happen to soften me up a little bit and like, look, you need to be a little kinder to her. But I'm actually happy. I mean, my daughter, she's tough. Like, she's not one to mess with. And I like to think that that's because of some of the initial things I did early on. But
you got carved in early, yeah.
Got carved in early. And, and with my son,
he looks like your wife a little bit.
So the funny thing is my daughter looks like me, but she acts almost identical to my wife, and my son, he looks like my wife, but acts like me. So, and it's weird, but it's funny how our dynamics. But yeah, with him, with him, it's been a little different. I would say one of the most challenging things that I found was recently, with everything going on in the world, right? The whole Black Lives Matter movement and all that. He asked a question to my wife and I, and he was like, why don't police like us? And with that, it's hard to answer that question.
Right.
In the context of what's going on, because it's not it's a complex answer. And I had to really let him know it's not that police don't like us. It's that people who are police have certain biases, right? And those biases cause them to behave and act the way that they do. And raising two kids, a male and a female. It's a struggle. My daughter, early on, my wife was really working with her. She wants the perm, she wants the nice straight hair because she's like, that's the ideal, beautiful, Black woman. My wife was like, no, my wife is all natural hair, curly hair, all this, and she has to, really convey to her, what beauty is. And I have to kind of come behind her and affirm that because so many times we, I believe as Black people, especially in the West, we have been taught, whether directly or indirectly, not to value our brilliance and our
true beauty.
Exactly. And so raising two kids up in this environment, that's one of the biggest things that we try to focus on, and that I try to focus on, be the best you can be. Going back to real quick, just answering the question about or the statement about what do we do and how do I raise my son and my daughter. I had to talk to my son really in depth, as a 10-year-old about living a life that doesn't give others a reason to fear you. That's not fair. But we have to try to live in such a way as Black Americans. We have to live in such a way where we have to go above and beyond and behave in such a way whereas it does not strike fear into the lives of others because of what they perceive us to be based off our skin color or what they saw on TV and what's portrayed in media and all of these crazy things, right? And so, and I had to tell them, that's not going to be the guarantee that you are not going to face any type of issue.
Right.
As this helps curve, the potential that it could come, right? The balance to that is that we have to be in positions of influence and power to actually see change and policies that are made different to support, who we are as a people.
Right. So Torian, you're a fairly new father. Tell us a little bit about your experience, man. What's impacting your experience as a father, and how's that going for you?
Yes, became a father at 35. the last of the bunch here.
Was this planned? Or was this always sought out to 35, or is that just?
No, it just happened that way. I recall when my wife and I got married, we had all these great, dreams and things. And, this is my second marriage. And, we went in and had all these thoughts. But then once we got in, it's like, wait a minute, hold on. There's a lot more learning that we need to do individually. Right. I remember praying, Lord, if the son that you promised me is to come from me and my wife and I, then allow us to learn what we need to learn before he gets here. And I really think that's what took place. It was even prophesied on a Sunday morning, the 5 years that my wife and I took being over the children's ministry at our church was the 5 years that we needed to put in before we could be blessed with our child because of what he has to hold or what's going to happen to him in his life. So the biggest experience that I had in being a father, one, is real. Sleep is non-existent, very, very real with that. But I had the privilege of being at home with my son for 3.5 months. And
interesting. Yeah.
So my wife was at home for the first 3 months. And because of, being in education and, the positions I had before, I'm a teacher now, but the positions I had before was nothing compared to the salary I had as a supervisor of a detention center. And so we had to make the hard decision for after her leave was over for me to come off my job because we just can't pay for the kind of daycare that we want with both of us working. It's just been going to work to pay for daycare. Yeah. And so after 3 months, she went back to work, and at 3 months, I quit my job, and I was at home with my son for 3.5 months, and I learned what women go through being stay-at-home moms. Because when my wife was at home, it was 3 months of him just, laying there not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, cool, hey, I can do this.
I'm set up for this.
Yeah, I'm set up for this.
Play some video games.
Play some video games, connect with family, and friends. And, I can write the books that I'm planning on writing, all these great things. And I'll be able to, make some money to, keep bringing money into the home. But it was, for lack of better words, hell at times.
Okay. Real talk.
Real talk. And I, understand, the psyche that women go through. And I have a psychology background, and just really understanding what happens to a stay-at-home parent, and really a stay-at-home mom, or a single mom for that matter, and trying to juggle home life, trying to still be an adult. My son depending on me, most of the hours of the day. Granted, I'm not I have my wife here, but she was going through her own, issues after, postpartum. Just being honest, because, our age, and just wasn't something that, we were really ready for. And so after 3.5 months of really trying to juggle everything, and, losing hair, barely eating, having mood swings, just, it was a lot. And, we had to make the decision. I prayed and I said, Lord, and I really see what women go through. And I really understand how some women can be driven to the point where they may hurt their child, just because, lack of sleep, or, or the woman that may leave her child in the back seat because she's so tired, she didn't even know she had the baby with her. And really being able to see that, because I, going through a lot of those kind of things myself. And I said, Lord, if it be your will, this is your child before he's our child, and we're just trying to take care of what you've given us, that I can go back to work, because right now this isn't sustainable.
You say, hold on, Lord, get me back to work.
It's not sustainable. And as it goes, I ended up not getting not only what I wanted, I got beyond what I wanted.
Wow. Okay.
To be able to go back to not only pay for his daycare, but for us to also continue to take care of home. So let's talk a little bit, and this can be open to everybody. So Torian, the traditional, like a lot of us probably were raised up, we may have thought, the woman is supposed, after the baby is born, the woman's supposed to be in the house, and, maybe depending on how we were raised, depending on the parents and different eras that we were raised upon, that was the role, right? We're in a new day. So how did, and you were just speaking just a moment ago of spending 3 months at home with your child. Has things changed for the role of the father? Has it always been this way? Let's talk a little bit about that and the impact that it could have on our children if fathers are able to be home present with their. Well, I think that fathers should always be present with their children. Okay. You look at the word fatherhood. Father's someone who fathers a child. The child belongs to you, and then hood means you're covering them.
Right.
And I know that myself, I didn't have a covering coming up. My father was killed when he was 18. I was only 3 years old. Wow. And I had a stepdad who didn't have a covering. His dad, to my knowledge, was never in his life. He knows his name, and he may have some family, but he's never been in his life. Right. And so I grew up in not only in a household where it wasn't a strong male presence, but in a family where it wasn't a strong male presence, where it was all about the women. And my mom, both parents worked, but when it came to taking care of the house, that was my job. Because they were so young, I'm being left with babies at 9 years old, just because I was just that responsible or whatever. Of course, you become an adult, and it's like, that should have never happened, right?
The oldest, right?
I'm the oldest. I remember taking care of 2 babies, at a time, sometimes, and looking at the role of the family, I have some brothers that I know that have dealt with the court system because, for whatever reason, the marriage didn't stay together, the relationships didn't stay together, and, they're dealing with the court system. And I saw it in my own life, and I see it through the folks who I know who are going through the legal battles, that there's an attack on fathers that's beyond systematic. You know, we go back to the enemy. He wants to tear that entire thing down. And I think that all fathers should spend that time in their child's life. All fathers should be present. I know that, you know, my own personal life, that, you know, when that happens, you're going to be scrutinized. The wife isn't going to always agree with, you know, your methods, or, you know, the world around you isn't going to agree with your methods, but you know who your child is. You know, me personally, it's like, you know, I pray for this child. You know, there's insights that I have beyond, you know, anyone else besides my wife and I, and knowing that there's going to be people oppose that.
Yeah.
And being able to say, you know, I'm his father and I'm his covering, and these are the things that God has given me to do for him, and it's okay.
Yeah, Reggie. So would you like to add to that?
I mean, I agree with Tori in a lot of ways. You know, I was actually thinking when he was talking, I was like, you know, as being a father, the one thing people, I think, underestimate, and then as fathers, sometimes I think we take for granted, is the fact that these are gifts that God's given unto us.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when our son specifically came along. You know, I was at a place where, you know, we had just literally had our daughter, and 3 months later, we found out, you know, that we were pregnant again with a son. I was like, man, Lord, why would you do this to me?
I'm just trying to
I'm trying to get this one straight. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was so frustrated. And I tell my son this story all the time, and he likes to hear it. He said, you know, how did I get my name? How come you didn't name me after yourself? And it was so frustrating because, you know, I was like, I don't want to name you after me. I want you to be better than me. You know what I mean? But I was like so frustrated. And one day I was sitting on my futon, and the Lord was like, it was a struggle. The struggle was real.
The early years.
That was the early years. You know, I was on a futon. I was sitting on our couch was a futon, and he said, you know what? Your son is a gift. Don't ever underestimate the fact that he's a gift.
Yeah.
And then, you know, through some other things, he took me to the book of Samuel, and he came across, I believe it was Samuel, but he came across the name Nathaniel. And when I looked up Nathaniel, it meant the gift of God, right? And so that's how my son got his name. But along with that, he also gave me how my son's behavior was going to be, his purpose, his identity, and all of that. Like in that moment, it was like all compacted there. And it was like, whoa, like it blew my mind. But as he gave me that, he also gave me how to raise him, how to guide him, and how to nurture him, and how to affirm him. Now, have I been perfect? No, by any means. I have not been perfect, but I believe that God has given me wisdom over the years to assist him with that. And likewise with my daughter. I mean, like, you know, it was funny because what God has showed me and my wife as parents, God affirmed through others who did not know us by the words of prophecy. And so that's how it even like solidified me that God will deposit into parents what it is that they need for their to do for their children. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Jamel? Any thoughts on
the point of, I guess, the balance of a father? One of the things that I've learned being raised by a single parent as a mother. My mother raised me. My mother and grandmother. My dad was he was off doing his own thing. He had another family and a different situation. So they didn't work out. So my mom raised me. Well, it was interesting. My mother is 16 years older than me. So my mother, her birthday.
Real talk. Let me just say this, man. I used to work with your mom in the bank, and I had no idea she had a child my age.
And that's what all that comes to, because my mom had just turned, I want to say 17, I think. Her birthday is May 11th, mine is May 24th. So we went to the prom together. She tells me that all the time. But having that dynamic of having the female aspect of everything in my life made it very challenging for me as an adult. What does a man do? Because I had a lot of women model what women do. But, you know, hey, I had an uncle who's 8 years older than me-ish. And I had a stepbrother who was 4 years older than me. I kind of, all right, looking at them, but then, I had a grandfather who participated a lot, but it was like this whole missing piece of manhood. Mm-hmm. But, we talk about fathers being important because there's something that fathers have to give to their kids. There's another level of what side of this, what does it look like? What are you modeling? What are you depositing? So now it's, hey, should fathers stay at home? Well, traditionally says no, because a man's role is to go out and make the donuts. And a woman's role is traditionally speaking, is that you take care of the kids in the household. Right. But what happens when that may shift or it's out of a different way? Society may say one thing, but I teach when I work with my families and couples, what system works for you? If the wife has the better paying job, then she making 6 figures. Why would she quit? And you making 50,000,
right?
Just so you can be quote unquote the man? No, that's foolishness.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
So you find out what balance it is, but it's okay because there is such a love that a man can give, but society said we don't do that. We don't show emotions. We don't show feelings. We don't connect. Our thing is just rough, rugged, and physical. Anything outside of that is taboo. But there's a compassionate side that men all have that we have to show. We want to. Women always tell us that we want you to be emotionally connected to us. And we always want to say, typically, we want you to be physically connected to us. But the dynamic is, if you learn how to emotionally connect, she will physically connect and vice versa. So now we have to learn, what are these things called emotions? My wife calls me a nerd, but I'm not. I'm a jock. I'm an athlete. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But all the sci-fi movies I watch.
You used to be, right?
Now, in my mind, I still am. On the sticks, I am. But, physically, the body won't let it happen. So, but every movie, kind of sci-fi movie I watch about AI, artificial intelligence, their whole goal for artificial intelligence is to feel, to be human, is to experience emotions. And I've started watching, like, our whole goal as human beings and men is to not have emotions. And I'm confused. So if you got these robots wanting to be human and learn how to feel, that's the only thing that stops them. And then we got these human beings who want to be artificial intelligence and don't want to feel, I'm kind of stuck. Because the very thing that makes us humans, we want to deny as men, and that's feelings, and that's connection. In order to connect, you got to feel. So we have to do this nurturing thing, and we have to maybe experience some other roles or other experiences and kind of break that old traditional cycle and say, you know what? What is it that I can do? What is it that I have to deposit? What is it that I have to share? Because once my kid gets part A and part B, it sets them up to be successful.
Yeah. All right. So what I was saying was, I know we were hearing a little bit about, the impacts our fathers in some shape or form may have had in our life, depending on their presence or their non-presence. In my case, I was raised with my father. And so there's some things that I learned, but it's key, because he worked a lot. There were many times that when we talk about presence, there were times that he may not have been as present because of work, and he came from that old school, I'll go out here and work and provide. And I'm thankful for all the things that he's done and all the things that he laid, but he wasn't necessarily that kind of father that, as Torium described, that would give time and just, spend that type of time with me per se, but he still, was present in his way, in his shape or form. So my question to you guys, I know we all have had different experiences, and of course, we know that impacts how we are fathers today, based upon those experiences. Do you think that we may, in some shape or form, overcompensate our fatherhood at times? I don't know if that's the right word I want to use, but you know what I mean? Like, are we over the top at times because of the absence? Or if we were over-fathered, maybe we may be a little lax at times. What do you guys think?
Well, I can go with that one. Oh, well, go ahead. B before J.
I think that that's just normal human. I don't know what to call it. Human behavior. It's just normal human behavior. To if you felt like you didn't have that and you tried to put that stamp down, then you'll be a little bit more stern. I know for myself, like I said, with the psychology background, being the authoritarian parent, being the parent that, I'm not your friend. I can't be your friend. I can be friendly, right, but I can't be your friend. And once you become an adult, then we can have, some type of bonding friendship. But right now it's an incubation stage. And the one thing that I have to make sure that I do, just because, and, people ask me all the time, were you in the military? And it's like, no, I wasn't in the military. This is even before I had the career in criminal justice.
Yeah, you do seem like it, Tori.
But I believe in excellence. And even before I met our bishop, I believe in excellence. Yeah. And I modeled my life after that. Just told my wife last night, I was the cat in the hood who ironed his track pants. Because that was me. I'm not going to fit in the box that you want me to fit in.
And play tennis.
And play tennis. Yes, I played tennis all 4 years of high school and coached after high school. But, and I played football too. That was
in Detroit, mind you. In Detroit.
I taught black kids in Detroit how to play tennis. But when I think about my son and what I want to pass on.
Because I wish somebody would taught me how to play tennis.
I can still teach you, brother. But teaching my son, there are some times that my wife may look at me and say, you were a little too stern with him. He'll be 2 in August. But as I see as I continue to see his abilities and things explode and show, she may hear me, raise my voice at him, and I have to follow it back to explain. No, when I tell him to stop, it's a basic word, and I want him to understand what stop means before we can go into anything else. He just needs to understand that if daddy says stop, if anybody says stop, it means stop. And, if I'm sleepy, whatnot, maybe I might yell too loud. It's like, oh, son, I'm sorry for yelling at you like that. I scared you a little bit. But right. What I learned in raising because I raised my siblings and still raising some of my siblings. What I learned in that is, yes, I may have to consequent them. I may, as their older brother or big brother, 3 years older, 7 years older, 14 years older, I may have to spank them. I may have to give them a consequence. I may have to put them on punishment. But regardless of what takes place, what I understand as a male, as what I understand as a covering, is that I must bring it back to love. If I don't end in love, I just did a disservice for whatever I did to try to correct them, because I can't teach them anything if they're not seeing the love side and me teaching them why they received that correction, what that correction could lead into outside of life, outside of whatever our setting is of what they've done.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're about to get ready, pretty much get ready to round this up. But before we get out of here, I want to kind of talk about what we can do, to help those other fathers out there. So what advice do you guys have for Black fathers in particular, because, we're talking about, in this time, and there's a stigma in some shape or form at times about Black fathers. What advice can you guys, through your experiences, through your ups and downs, what can you share to others as other young fathers, other Black fathers, on some things that you may have wished you learned, could have learned, or things that you've learned along the way that you could share now?
One of my tools is stop trying to do it by yourself.
Okay.
The biggest thing in this is that you are not alone. I know the perception of we are Atlas and we have the world on our shoulders. However, being that you want to be Atlas, let somebody else carry that world with you. And that will help it. Just because you can don't mean you should. So it's a lot easier to get help to carry something than to throw your back out trying to prove that you're strong. And that's one of the biggest things I say. Get help. And don't be afraid to talk, because when we open our mouth and share our stories, there will be coming an understanding of what men do and how they are. There are a lot of self-help books out there that are written by women telling you how a man is and what to do a man operates. And I'm still confused on how do you do that? Until you can explain to me puberty from a male perspective and you go through it, you can't tell me how to be a man. And I think that's it, being willing to share our stories, to be willing to open up and talk about what's going on, what your perspective is. It doesn't make you weak, but it allows people to understand this. And I think that's the piece. Talk, share, get help. It's okay. Partner with us. And then I think that will strengthen our bond in the relationships. Because I know a lot of the movies that I watch, you see a guy having a sidekick, or he has a friend, a confidant, and that's what we need. So we can't be out here Lone Ranger in it. Well, even Lone Ranger had Tonto, so and Silver the horse. Yeah. So it's if the Justice League, a whole bunch of superheroes get together to form a team, what chance do I got? Superheroes need help. I'm confused, but we out here want to solo it. Hey, get a team around you, get a community, and learn. And second up, don't be the smartest man in the room, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you don't grow. I always tell you keep somebody above you that's pouring into you, and you keep somebody below you that you're pouring into, and that keeps you honest.
That's good.
So as you fill up, you pour out, and there's still room for anything. So that becomes the tip. Find somebody that you can lean on, that's going where you want to go, and then find somebody that you can pour into and share what you have learned along the way, so we don't have to keep all hitting the same potholes.
That's good, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think I would add to it and say that, along with that, I think that, we have to understand as fathers that our role is important. I think a lot of times we may underestimate that. At least I did early on. Yeah. I used to think that fatherhood was one of the most underrated positions on the team. It's like, why do you want to do that? Hey. Mother's Day, you'd be like, oh, look at all that. Then Father's Day come along, like, another pair of socks. Here we go. You know what I'm saying?
Or that tie, right?
Yeah, that tie. It's socks or a tie. But I come to understand that as a father. I was just visiting my dad the other day for his birthday, and my brother and I went to visit him, and we were laughing because, as the fathers now, we understood
it changes.
It changes. It's like, man, a lot of the things that he said we didn't really understand, we didn't appreciate, but as we became fathers and grew into adults, all those words became gold. Right. Mm-hmm. And so as fathers, understand that right now you may not be reaping all the glory and all the things that you want. But when you understand your role, it's to see that you're shaping the future. You're molding the future, and the thing that's going to be the crown, if you will, is as your children excel, and as children everywhere excel. Because I believe that we have to be fathers not only for our own seed, but a lot of times we have to be fathers for those who, as Torian put it, maybe siblings or cousins or friends, nieces or nephews, or that's saying. Good. We have to help father the community, because that's one of the reasons why I believe that as a community, we've seen lack, we've seen neglect, we've seen all these things kind of go astray because strong black male presence has declined.
Yeah, and that's huge that you say that. We have to extend. A lot of us grew up in some areas, and where our fathers weren't around. If there was that one mentor, that coach, whatever it is, that it does have that impact. It draws out, or it could be your friend's father. You might go over to their house and your friend's father shares something. But we do need to do that and know our roles in that capacity as well. So, Torian, what say ye?
Just listening to these guys, and just a couple things. The biggest thing that I learned, I knew it before being a father because I've been a part of one, but now that I am a father, is it really takes a village to raise a child. Where my parents, because they were so young, because they were caught in so many things, and because I was caused to be an adult or have an adult role at a very young age, that the village raised me. And, whatever God needed to pour into me, it was a village around me. It was always a village around Torian of some sort. Sometimes it wasn't even the village that my parents approved of or even knew about that impacted who I am. And as I'm a father, when I started getting close to the day my son came, it's like, will he because I didn't have a father like that. Like, will he look at me? Will he look up to me? Will there be some other male that, he may be, may gravitate more to because I didn't have that. I didn't have that frame of reference. And so, as he gets older, and he's a daddy's boy. God gave me a daddy's boy. So it's like the one thing I was concerned about, he's a daddy's boy. He prefers dad very often over mom. But what I see in that, and what I see in the village, and what I see in my own validation of fatherhood, my wife looks at me at times and it's like, wow, if I didn't have you, I don't know what I would be able to do with a lot of the stuff that he does, that I just understand that there's a heavenly wisdom about, or just, male wisdom about, and just how important fathers are. Some of the young men that I speak to, that go through with the mother of their child, and it's like, hey, doesn't matter what she may do, doesn't matter what she may say, whether they're together or not, this child needs you no matter what. This is your first and your last ministry. And so that's the approach that I've taken. I understand it's a village, and you guys here are a part of that village. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, man, with the time, and we could do a second part to this and continue the conversation on, but just for the respect of time, I'm going to kind of end it here. But what I did want to share with each one of you guys, I see you on my screen, and I just wanted to look each one of you in the face and tell you guys, I have watched you and observed you guys, and I want to let you guys know that you are some dynamic fathers. You're some awesome fathers, man. And I see the way you guys do your thing, and how you support your family and how you support your children. And I just want to let you know that you guys matter. Sometimes, again, we have to affirm each other, right? And so I just want to take the time to tell you what I've observed, and I want to let you guys know that you guys matter. And I know we can do that a lot more from, I look around my circle per se, and the guys that I'm somewhat shape or form around, and I've seen dynamic fathers. And so, sometimes the narrative is played that we're not there, we're not present, we're not doing the things that we should do. And it may be the case somewhere, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm just thankful to be able to say that there's some strong brothers that I'm associated with that are doing some great things. And I just want to let you guys know that you matter. And we are out here doing some great things. And happy Father's Day, by the way, too. Happy Father's Day to each one of you, too. As we air this podcast, we want to let everybody know that happy Father's Day to them as well, but to you guys as well here on this call here today. So enjoyed the conversation. Like I said, today was a little more father oriented, and we just wanted to give perspectives. As you can see, the variety, the perspective, the background, the experience, it's all there, and we're able to share that today. And so, we'll get back on again. And next time we can talk about video games, sports, and all that fun stuff. But today we wanted to tone it down and specifically talk about fathers, especially in this time with everything going on. And sometimes we're looking for other people to validate us, but we can look each other in the face today and we can affirm each other because we know what we're doing out here on the front line. And I just wanted to take this time to honor that. So I know I'm rambling, but anywho, this is my show, Behind the Grind, right? So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end it. I hope you enjoyed this program. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today. Let you know that there's some resources. My guy, Jamel, here is a counselor. So Jamel, tell them how, if anybody wanted to start talking, how can they connect with you?
If you want to reach out, it's at Envision Change Counseling and Consulting. Our website is envisionchange.cc.com, or you can drop us a call at 586-251-0408, and someone will be greatly appreciative to help you move forward. So that's always a great way. Hit us up.
That's awesome. And then if you have some media needs, or even the fatherhood as well, Reggie, how can people connect with you, get in contact with you, and what you and your wife are doing as well?
One of the best ways to reach out to us is via email, and you can reach me at reginald@GinaGaleMediaSolutions.com. Of course, being the media guy, all that will be on the screen, but you can also check us out on our website, Gina Gale Media Solutions, and then my wife's website is Feed the Babes, and on there she has a whole slew of various things that help for maternal and infant and family care.
Yeah, awesome. And Dr. Torian, man, how can people connect with you if they want to? How can they get a hold of you to chop it up or talk about anything?
I am a licensed minister, and I have several I shouldn't say websites, but emails. And right now, it's just my personal. Those things will grow as I'm sitting here listening to my brothers. There's a lot of things that needs to grow, but just torrynbutler@gmail.com. It's TORRYNBUTLER@gmail.com. So, or you can call me as well, 313-409-8426. Hit me there awesome. As well.
That's a minister for you right there. So, man, guys, it's been great. So to all of you who are listening, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. But until the next time, you know about it. It's Behind the Grind. We out.